How's it going, everyone? I'm NotBae, bringing you another Smash discussion because once again there is drama that I want to talk about. In case you haven't heard, this past weekend saw a Cola, a very talented Steve player from Japan, win the Gimvitational, a Smash invitational tournament composed of a ton of top players from around the world. The tournament was a ton of fun, great time to watch, and was even beating out Valorant in viewership, one of the most popular esports. But while viewership was really high, there has been a ton of debate as of late about Steve and whether or not he should be banned. And while some players were joking about their posts, others were genuinely serious about a Steve ban. Players supporting the ban argue a lot of Steve's strengths do not translate to sound Smash gameplay and is overall very boring to watch. Therefore, removing him from competition would result in a healthier, more exciting metagame, while players against the ban argue to just learn the matchup and quote-unquote get good. On the surface, both of these arguments are pretty short-sighted as they don't help in a discussion. It's extremely immature to ban something just because we don't like it, but it's also dangerous to let a potentially broken character run amok, and even more immature to chastise people for not being able to outplay it. So let's dive deeper to see if we can understand both sides and maybe draw some kind of conclusion as to whether Steve deserves a ban. But before we delve into this, I think it's important to remember that banning characters in fighting games is typically seen as a last resort, because once we start banning characters, stages, or even techniques, we start shifting the metagame towards what we want rather than what the game intended. At the same time, the point of banning things isn't to make the game as balanced as possible, but to have one that's enjoyable and fun to watch. People on average want to watch something that's fun and interesting, regardless of how broken or OP it is. It's the same reason why Melee currently has a ledge grab limit and has banned techniques like wobbling and stalling. And we see this even in regular sports. The United States Dream Team in the 1992 Olympics is widely regarded as the most overpowered team in history, with 11 of the 12 players reaching the Basketball Hall of Fame. They beat teams by an average of 43 points, yet most people, including their opponents, didn't even care because it was a scintillating display of skill and style, and their dominance has since led to some of the best non-American basketball players we have ever seen. Why am I emphasizing the importance of fun to watch? Because it plays a significant role in how popular an esport is. No matter how much more balanced Game X is, Game Y will always get more viewership and revenue if it's more fun to watch. And if Steve as a character is undermining this fast, skill-based metagame that we as a community want, then there is a valid reason to ban him. Steve should be banned. Is what I would say if I actually believed that. Yes, I do see the arguments, but honestly, there simply isn't enough evidence to suggest the character is OP and should be banned from competition. And I mean, we can't even say Steve's boring gameplay is driving away fans when we're comparable to Valorant in viewership. From my experience with fighting games and gaming as a whole, for that matter, there are typically 3 qualities that a character or tactic must meet to warrant a ban. Number 1, they're very strong and almost uncounterable. This is an obvious one, but needs to be mentioned. Not only is the character very powerful, but there has to be very few ways to counter it. Best examples of this are Peach Side B stalling on Fountain of Dreams in Melee, Meta Knight's Infinite Dimensional Kate in Brawl, and in shooters, One-Man Army Noob Tubes for Modern Warfare 2. However, being super strong with little counterplay doesn't mean much unless, number 2, they take very little skill to pull off. Characters are allowed to be strong, complex, and even broken in some aspects, just as long as the tech skill to get there is high enough where it's rewarding. Melee Fox is arguably the most demanding fighting game character of all time, with virtually unlimited potential. But he isn't banned because the skill required to reach those levels is so high, no one has even come close to attaining that power. Which finally brings us to number 3, they are over-centralizing the metagame. This is the culmination of the first 2 qualities, but if the character starts to dominate tournaments with abnormally high usage rates and tournament wins, that's a huge problem, especially for a game like Smash Ultimate. The main draw of this game is the sheer number of characters that you can select, and if the presence of this super OP character significantly shrinks the number of viable ones, a ban may be needed, as this also plays into how fun Smash Ultimate is to play and spectate. So let's look at Steve as a character to see if he fits any of the criteria. Number 1, he is definitely very strong. Uncounterable, however, is pushing it in my eyes. I don't think we have any Steve players who claim he has 0 losing matchups. And I'm inclined to say that there is counterplay, but most of the top players haven't had enough time to figure it out because we, as a community, haven't needed to learn the matchup. Number 2, however, I do agree with that Steve's game plan is very easy to pull off. There is obviously a lot of tech that seems pretty difficult to use consistently that I honestly don't have any problems with. The core game plan of putting up walls, anti-air or tilt to stuff approaches, and minecart as mix-ups is very simple and doesn't take a ton of thought and is pretty powerful to boot. While I do think Steve players haven't run into someone who truly knows the matchup and thus would have a way to stop the strategy, it is strong and easy enough where I'll give the point to them. Which finally brings us to number 3. Does Steve over-centralize the meta? Short answer, no. Longer answer, not even close. At the time of this recording, there have been 17 offline major tournaments in 2022. Out of the 17 tournaments, 3 of them have been won by a Steve player. Seems pretty innocent, especially when the only Steve player that has won is Akola, who has rose to prominence in Japan. The only other characters with similar results are Cloud and Byleth, both of which are piloted by the 2 best players in the world. Steve ain't winning any more than other characters. You could make the argument that Akola is a worse player than Spargo and Leo, and thus Steve is carrying his results, but that's a yoga stretch if you ask me. What about top 8? There have been 17 top 8s, which means there are 136 players who have top 8 at a major in 2022. I quickly made a spreadsheet and tallied how often each character appeared in a top 8. And out of the 136 players, 7 of them have used Steve in bracket, tied with Sora and Byleth for the 10th most seen character. Steve is currently beaten out by Wario, Sephiroth, Rob, Olimar, Kazuya, Fox, Roy, Aegis, and Cloud. There's obviously a lot of context that is left out in a statistic like this, but I don't think I need to say much. Steve hasn't been dominating to the point where the meta is shifting towards him. In fact, out of the 86 playable fighters, 56 have made at least one appearance in a top 8 this year. Again, a lot of this is noise, especially since this doesn't record which characters are secondaries, but regardless, that's ridiculously high character diversity in a competitive esport. Steve has been an extremely polarizing character ever since his reveal trailer in Smash Ultimate, and if I'm being real, a lot of people I think are just pissed because they hate Minecraft. I'm also definitely biased as a Minecraft fan and also someone who really doesn't like banning stuff in esports. But while I'm not completely ruling out the possibility, I don't think we have enough evidence to show Steve is OP and needs a ban. He isn't overwhelmingly strong with 0 weaknesses, nor is he over-centralizing the meta where character diversity is dropping. The only arguments for a ban is that he's easy to play and is kinda boring to watch, neither of which are objective points, so I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, what do y'all think? Would you like to see Steve banned from competitive play? Let me know in the comments to share your opinions. Obviously, I'm only one side of the argument and I'm not objectively correct, so for all the anti-Steve people, definitely let me know what your thoughts are and why you think he should be banned. All I ask of you is to be cordial in the comments since it's just a game and there's no need to get worked up over it. Anyways, that's gonna be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this little discussion and I will catch you all later. Peace out.